Peace talks collapse. Humanity's answer terrifies the galaxy. The massive space station called Harmony Prime floated in the empty space between star systems. It was built long ago as a neutral meeting place where different alien races could talk without fighting. Today, 12 of the most powerful species in the galaxy had gathered here for one purpose. They wanted to end the human problem once and for all. Admiral Marcus Webb walked through the station's long corridors with his small team. Elena Rodriguez, a skilled diplomat, checked her notes one more time. Colonel James Park kept his hand near his weapon, even though weapons were not allowed in the meeting room. Dr. Lydia Foster, who studied alien life forms, watched everything around them with sharp eyes. The aliens thought this meeting would be easy. They expected humans to surrender without a fight. After all, humanity was young and small compared to the great empires that ruled the galaxy. What could these newcomers do against races that had traveled the stars for thousands of years? The meeting room was huge and round. Seats were arranged in a circle, with each alien delegation taking their traditional spots. The Vorthon Empire sat on the eastern side. They were tall, gray-skinned warriors who had conquered dozens of worlds through pure military might. Their leader, Commander Vex, wore battle armor even during peace talks. Across from them sat the Nexari Collective. These blue-skinned beings had 4 arms each, and were known throughout the galaxy for their advanced technology. They could build machines that other races could barely understand. Their representative, Tech Prime Nora, had computer implants covering half her face. The ancient Kethmori took up the largest section. They looked like giant insects with golden shells, and had been traveling space since before most other races learned to make fire. Elder Keth spoke for them, his voice making clicking sounds that the translation computers turned into words. 9 other species filled the remaining seats. There were the plant-like Verdani, the energy beings called Lux, and the aquatic Hydros who needed special tanks to survive outside water. All of them looked at the small human delegation with what seemed like boredom. Webb took his seat without saying a word. He looked calm, almost relaxed. This surprised some of the aliens. They had expected fear or anger, not this quiet confidence. Commander Vex stood first. His voice boomed across the room. Humans of Earth, you have taken worlds that do not belong to you. You have built weapons without permission. You have refused to follow galactic law. Today we offer you one last chance to make things right. Tech Prime Nora activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy. Red dots marked human colonies, and they seemed to be everywhere. Your expansion must stop, she said in her electronic voice. You will abandon 80% of these worlds. The remaining colonies will be watched by our forces to ensure you follow all galactic regulations. Elder Keth's clicking grew louder. You will also pay tribute, the translation said. 30% of everything you make must be given to the Galactic Council. Your military will be reduced to police forces only. Your research into advanced weapons will stop immediately. The other aliens nodded in agreement. They had spent months working out these terms. To them, it seemed generous. Humanity could survive, but only as a small, controlled member of the galactic community. Dr. Foster watched each alien representative as they spoke. Her training in studying alien behavior helped her notice things others missed. She saw how Commander Vex's hands shook slightly when he mentioned human weapons. She noticed Tech Prime Nora's eyes kept looking away from Webb's face. Elder Keth's golden shell showed stress patterns that most humans would never recognize. They were afraid. This realization shocked her. These were the most powerful beings in the galaxy. They commanded fleets that could destroy entire solar systems. They had crushed every other young race that had dared to challenge them, so why were they scared of humans? Elena Rodriguez stood to respond for humanity. Her voice was steady and professional. The human delegation appreciates the time and effort put into these proposals, she said. We understand that you believe these terms are fair and reasonable. The aliens leaned forward, expecting surrender. However, Rodriguez continued, we must point out several issues with your offer. First, many of the worlds you want us to abandon contain billions of human lives. We cannot simply tell entire populations to leave their homes. Commander Vex made a sound like a growl. They can relocate to approved worlds. Second, Rodriguez said, ignoring the interruption, the tribute you demand would cripple our economy. Our people would suffer greatly. That is the price of peace, Elder Keth clicked. Third, Reducing our military would leave human colonies defenseless against pirates and raiders who already attack our border worlds. Tech Prime Nora's computer implants flashed. The Galactic Council will provide protection. Will you? Rodriguez asked. Your own records show that Council forces take an average of 6 months to respond to distress calls in human space. Pirates can destroy a colony in 6 hours. The room grew quiet. The aliens had not expected humans to argue with logic and facts. They had expected either immediate surrender or emotional outbursts. Colonel Park finally spoke. His voice was cold and military precise. There's also the matter of trust, he said. Your forces have already attacked 3 human research stations in neutral space. You destroyed a civilian transport ship last month. Why should we trust you to honor any agreement? Those were necessary actions, Commander Vex snapped. Your research was dangerous. Dangerous to whom? Park asked. The question hung in the air like a challenge. Dr. Foster noticed that several aliens suddenly looked uncomfortable. Their body language showed signs of deep anxiety. Webb stood slowly. Every eye in the room focused on him. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight that seemed to fill the entire space. We came here in good faith, he said. We hoped to find a peaceful solution that would let all our peoples prosper together. We believed that reasonable beings could find reasonable answers. He paused, looking at each alien delegation in turn. But you're not here to negotiate. You're here to dictate terms. You want us to abandon our homes, give you our wealth, and trust you to protect us after you've already shown you can't be trusted. The aliens stirred restlessly. Some hands moved toward weapons before they remembered where they were. So we must respectfully decline your generous offer. Webb continued. Humanity chooses a different path. What path? Elder Keth demanded, his clicking becoming sharp and angry. Webb smiled, but there was no warmth in it. That's for us to decide. Dr. Foster felt a chill run down her spine. She had worked with Admiral Webb for 3 years and had never seen him look like this. Behind his calm exterior, she sensed something vast and patient and utterly determined. This is unacceptable, Commander Vex roared, jumping to his feet. You cannot simply refuse. The Galactic Council has the right to enforce these terms. You have the right to try, Webb said quietly. The human delegation began gathering their things. Elena Rodriguez closed her datapad. Colonel Park straightened his uniform. Dr. Foster took one last look around the room, memorizing the faces of beings who might soon be enemies. As they walked toward the exit, Tech Prime Nora called out, You're making a terrible mistake. Humanity cannot stand against the combined might of the galaxy. Webb stopped at the door and turned back one final time. Perhaps, he said. But you're about to find out what happens when you back a human into a corner. The door closed behind them with a soft sound that somehow seemed final. The alien sat in stunned silence for several minutes after the humans left. Finally, Commander Vex spoke. Prepare the fleets, he growled. If they won't accept peace, we'll give them war. But deep in their hearts, each alien representative felt a growing fear that they had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. Peace talks collapse. Humanity's answer. Terrifies the galaxy. 3 days had passed since the humans walked out of the peace talks. 3 days since Admiral Webb had smiled his cold smile and chosen war over surrender. Now the galaxy was learning what human silence really meant. Captain Thane of the Vorthan battlecruiser Iron Fist stared at his scanner displays in growing confusion. His ship was patrolling the border between Vorthon space and human territory, looking for the military buildup that should have been happening. Instead, he found nothing. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're still getting no response from any human colonies in this sector. Are they jamming us? Thane asked. No, sir. The channels are completely open. It's like no one is there to answer. Thane frowned at the star map on his main screen. 17 human colonies should be in this area, including several major industrial worlds. The scanner showed planets in their correct orbits, but no ship traffic, no communication signals, no signs of normal activity. Take us to the Kepler 186 system, he ordered. The humans have a big mining operation there. We'll see what they're really up to. When they arrived, the Iron Fist found empty space stations and abandoned mining platforms. The colony on Kepler 186F showed no life signs at all. It was as if 10 million humans had simply vanished overnight. This doesn't make sense, the ship's tactical officer said. Where did they all go? Thane didn't have an answer. In 30 years of military service, he had never seen anything like this. When species prepared for war, they gathered their fleets and reinforced their worlds. They didn't just disappear. Halfway across the galaxy, Tech Prime Nora was having similar problems. Her probe ships were reporting the same mysterious silence from human space. Trade routes that had carried millions of tons of cargo just days ago were completely empty. "Show me the trade analysis," she commanded her computer systems. Holographic charts filled her command center. They showed human trading patterns over the past 5 years. The lines of commerce stretched across dozens of star systems like a giant web. Human merchants had been everywhere, buying and selling, making deals with dozens of different species. Now that web was gone. Every single human trade ship had vanished without a trace. "Run a scan for human fleet movements," Nora ordered. "Processing," the computer replied. No significant human fleet movements detected in any monitored system. That was impossible. The human military had hundreds of ships. They couldn't all just hide without someone noticing. But the computer never lied, and its sensors reached across thousands of light years. "Expand the search. Include all possible hiding locations. Search complete. No human military vessels found." Nora's 4 arms moved across her control panels, bringing up different sensor readings. Her computer implants processed the data faster than any organic brain could handle. The conclusion was always the same. Humanity had somehow made their entire civilization disappear. On the water world of Kepler 442b, Dr. Rachel Kim worked frantically in her underwater laboratory. The facility was built inside a massive coral reef, hidden 3 miles beneath the ocean's surface. No alien scanner would ever think to look here. "How are the growth rates?" she asked her assistant, Dr. Tom Wilson. "Better than expected," Wilson replied, checking his readings. "The neural networks are developing ahead of schedule. The size increase is following the projection models perfectly." Rachel looked through the thick glass windows of the laboratory. Outside in the dark water, something huge moved slowly through the depths. It was difficult to see clearly, but she could make out sections of what looked like living coral mixed with metal and crystal. "Any word from the other sites?" she asked. Wilson checked his secure communication system. Site 14 reports successful integration. Site 22 had some problems with the power systems, but they're fixed now. Site 31 says they'll be ready ahead of schedule. Rachel nodded. Project Leviathan was humanity's greatest secret. For 20 years, human scientists had been working on it in hidden facilities scattered across dozens of worlds. Even most humans didn't know it existed. "Have you heard from Dr. Cross lately?" she asked. "He sent a message yesterday. Said his specimens are responding well to the final treatment." Rachel turned back to the window. The massive shape outside seemed to be looking at her, though she knew that was impossible. It didn't have eyes in any normal sense. "I hope we're doing the right thing," she said quietly. "Too late to worry about that now," Wilson replied. "The countdown has started. In 69 hours, the galaxy is going to see what humanity has been building in the dark." On Titan, one of Saturn's moons, General Lisa Morgan sat in a command center buried under 2 miles of solid ice. The facility had taken 8 years to build and was completely invisible to any kind of scanner. Around her, hundreds of technicians monitored screens showing locations across human space. "Status report," she called out. "All primary sites report ready," her chief of staff announced. "Secondary sites are at 96%. The few remaining issues should be resolved within 12 hours. Morgan looked at the master countdown timer on the main screen. 68 hours, 14 minutes, she read aloud. "Have we heard anything from the alien fleets?" "Long-range sensors show major fleet movements from the Vorthan Empire and the Nexari Collective. They're positioning for what looks like a coordinated attack on our border systems." "Let them come," Morgan said. "They won't find what they expect." She walked over to a special communication console. This one was connected to the most secure network humanity had ever built. When she activated it, her voice would reach every hidden facility, every secret laboratory, every concealed research station. "This is General Morgan to all Project Leviathan sites," she began. "We are now in the final phase. All personnel should complete their preparations and move to safe positions. In less than 3 days, the galaxy will learn what happens when you threaten humanity's children." She paused, thinking about her own daughter who was studying on Mars, safely inside human space. "Remember, we didn't choose this war. They did. We offered peace and they demanded surrender. Now they'll face the consequences of that choice." Deep in the research facility under Antarctica, Dr. Nathan Cross monitored vital signs that defied every law of biology he had learned in medical school. The creatures his team was caring for shouldn't be possible. They were too large, too complex, too alive. The neural integration is complete, his assistant Dr. Amy Burke reported. All biological systems are functioning normally. Define normally, Cross said with a bitter laugh. Nothing about this is normal. He looked at the massive tanks that filled the underground complex. Each one contained something that was part machine, part living tissue, and part something else entirely, something humanity had found in the dark spaces between galaxies. The quantum consciousness patterns are stable, Burke continued. The bonding with human genetic material is holding strong. Any signs of independence? Rebellion? None. They respond to human presence like children respond to parents. Complete trust and affection, Cross nodded. That had been the most important part of the project. These beings could destroy planets if they chose to, but they would never harm a human. The bonding process made sure of that. How long until emergence? Burke checked her chronometer. 67 hours, 31 minutes. Across human space, similar scenes were playing out in dozens of hidden locations. Scientists and military personnel making final preparations for something that had never been tried before. They were about to release forces that could reshape the galaxy. The aliens thought they knew what war with humanity would look like. They expected space battles with ships and weapons they understood. They were planning strategies based on fleet movements and tactical formations. They had no idea that humanity had learned to grow their own weapons, living weapons that thought and felt and loved their human creators more than life itself. In less than 3 days, the galaxy would discover that some wars aren't won with superior numbers or better technology. Some wars are won by creating something so impossible that your enemies can't even imagine how to fight it. The countdown continued, and in the darkness between stars, something vast and patient began to stir. Peace talks collapse, humanity's answer. Terrifies the galaxy. The first signs appeared at exactly the same time across 17 different star systems. Gravity sensors throughout the galaxy suddenly screamed warnings as massive objects began moving in ways that should have been impossible. The readings were so strange that most aliens thought their equipment was broken. On the bridge of the Keth Mori exploration vessel, Ancient Wisdom, Elder Vor watched his instruments with growing alarm. His ship was studying the outer planets of the Wolf 359 system when every scanner suddenly went wild. What is that? He clicked to his navigation officer. Unknown. Elder. The reading suggests something the size of a small moon is rising from the core of the gas giant. Elder Vor's golden shell began showing, the stress patterns his species displayed. When facing something they couldn't understand. That's impossible. Gas giants don't have solid cores large enough for such readings. The mass sensors are consistent. Elder. Something is definitely there. Take us closer. The Ancient Wisdom moved toward the swirling storms of the gas giant. As they approached, their long-range scanners began picking up more impossible readings. The object wasn't just large, it was clearly artificial, and it was moving with purpose. Elder, the communications officer reported, we're receiving similar reports from 17 other locations in human space. Massive objects emerging from planets, asteroids, even the empty space between worlds. Elder Vor felt a fear he hadn't experienced in 300 years of life. His species had explored the galaxy for millennia. They thought they had seen everything the universe could produce. But this was something new, something that violated every law of physics and biology he knew. Send word to the council, he ordered. Tell them the humans have been hiding something in their worlds. Something impossible. Admiral Torres of the Keth Mori fleet was investigating the Proxima Centauri system when he received Elder Vor's message. His battle group consisted of 12 heavy cruisers, enough firepower to destroy most planets. But as he watched his own scanners, he realized firepower might not be enough for whatever humanity had created. Admiral, his science officer reported, the ocean world Proxima B is showing massive disturbances. Something is rising from the deepest trenches. Torres looked at the blue and white planet on his main screen. It had always seemed peaceful and quiet. Human colonists lived in floating cities on the surface while scientists studied the deep ocean life forms. How massive? He asked. The displacement suggests something roughly 15 miles long and 8 miles wide. But Admiral, the readings don't make sense. Parts of it register as living tissue, parts as advanced technology, and parts as something our computers can't identify. Torres felt his breathing sacs tighten with anxiety. Show me visual. The main screen shifted to show the planet's surface. At first, nothing seemed different. Then the ocean began to bulge upward in a perfect circle. The water rose higher and higher until something breached the surface. It looked like a living mountain had grown wings. The creature that emerged from Proxima B's ocean was beyond anything Torres had ever imagined. Its surface seemed to be made of coral and metal fused together in impossible ways. Crystalline structures jutted from its back like fins, and they pulsed with soft blue light. Most disturbing of all, it moved with intelligence and purpose. "Admiral," his tactical officer said in a shaking voice, "that thing is larger than our largest battleship. Weapons status? All weapons ready, sir. But I'm not sure what good they'll do against something that size." Torres watched the creature float above the planet's surface. It wasn't using any visible means of propulsion, yet it moved through space as easily as a fish through water. His instruments detected no engine signatures, no energy sources he could understand. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the creature." "From the creature itself?" "Yes, sir. It's a simple message repeating on all frequencies. Put it through." A sound filled the bridge that made every alien crew member freeze in terror. It was like singing, but it resonated at frequencies that reached into their brains and triggered the deepest fear responses evolution had given them. The sound spoke of vast intelligence and patience beyond measure. But underneath the alien harmonics there was something else. Something that sounded almost like affection, like a parent singing to a beloved child. On Earth, Dr. Nathan Cross stood in his laboratory watching readouts from creatures across human space. The emergence was happening exactly as planned. 20 years of careful preparation were finally bearing fruit. "Vital signs are stable across all sites," Dr. Amy Burke reported. "The creatures are responding well to their first exposure to open space." "Any signs of distress or confusion?" "None. If anything, they seem excited. Happy to finally be free of their hiding places." Cross nodded. The bonding process had worked better than they had hoped. These beings weren't just loyal to humanity, they genuinely loved their human creators. Each creature saw humans as their family, their children to be protected at all costs. "What about the alien reactions?" Burke checked her monitoring systems. "Long-range sensors show alien fleets pulling back from our borders. They're scared." "Good," Cross said grimly. "They should be scared. They have no idea what they're facing." He walked over to a communication console and opened a secure channel to General Morgan on Titan. "This is Dr. Cross reporting. All biological systems are green. The children are awake and healthy." "Excellent," Morgan's voice replied. "How long until they reach full operational status?" 6 hours. Maybe less. They're eager to begin their work." On Kepler 442b, Dr. Rachel Kim watched through her laboratory windows as the creature she had been nurturing for 5 years finally left the ocean depths. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time, like a living cathedral made of coral and starlight. "Goodbye, friend," she whispered to the glass. The creature paused in its ascent and turned back toward the laboratory. For a moment, Kim could have sworn it was looking directly at her with affection and gratitude. Then it rose toward the surface and the stars beyond. "Dr. Kim," her assistant called out, "we're receiving messages from the other sites. All primary specimens have successfully emerged. Secondary sites report they'll be ready within hours." Kim felt tears running down her cheeks. She had spent half her life working on this project, pouring all her knowledge and love into creating beings that could protect humanity. Now they were finally free to fulfill their purpose. "Send a message to all sites," she said. "Tell them the children are coming home." Across the galaxy, alien fleets were pulling back from human space in confusion and terror. The creatures emerging from human worlds were unlike anything they had ever encountered. They moved through space without engines, communicated without technology, and radiated a kind of presence that made even hardened warriors feel like small children facing something beyond their understanding. Commander Vex of the Vorthan Empire tried to maintain his composure as reports flooded in from his scouts. "How many of these things are there?" he demanded. "At least 40 that we've detected so far," his intelligence officer reported. "But sir, there could be many more still hidden. These creatures appeared in systems we thought we knew completely." "What are they?" "Unknown, sir. They don't match any known life form or technology. They seem to be some kind of hybrid between living organisms and advanced machines." Vex slammed his fist on his command chair. The humans must have been planning this for years. Decades even. What are your orders, sir? Vex stared at the tactical display showing the positions of the alien creatures. Each one was larger than his biggest warships. Each one moved with impossible grace and power. Each one was clearly intelligent and purposeful. Pull all fleets back to defensive positions, he said finally. We need time to understand what we're facing. But deep in his warrior's heart, Vex already suspected the truth. Humanity hadn't just been preparing for war. They had been preparing to rewrite the rules of what war could be. The creatures continued to emerge from their hiding places, singing their strange songs across the void. And in that alien music, anyone who listened carefully could hear something that chilled them to their core. Love. Absolute, unconditional love for the small, brief lives that had created them. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when beings of godlike power chose to love humanity above all else. Peace talks collapse, humanity's answer terrifies the galaxy. The galaxy held its breath as humanity's true answer revealed itself in all its impossible glory. What emerged from human worlds was not a fleet of ships or an army of soldiers. It was something far more terrifying and wonderful than any alien mind could have imagined. Commander Sarah Walsh sat in the pilot seat of the human contact vessel Prometheus as it approached one of the newly emerged creatures. Her ship was tiny compared to the living mountain floating in space before her, but she felt no fear. This was her first time seeing one of the Titans in person, but she had been briefed on what to expect. Prometheus to Central Command, she spoke into her radio. I'm approaching Leviathan 7. Visual contact confirmed. Copy that, Prometheus, came General Morgan's voice from the hidden command center. Remember, they know you're coming. Just be yourself. Walsh laughed despite the tension. Just be myself while talking to a living creature the size of a city. Sure, no problem. As her ship drew closer, Walsh could see the incredible details of the Titan's construction. Its surface was covered in what looked like coral formations, but they pulsed with internal light and seemed to respond to her approach. Metallic structures grew from the organic base like trees made of liquid mercury, and everywhere crystalline formations, caught and reflected starlight in patterns that hurt to look at directly. It's beautiful, she whispered. The creature began to sing. The sound reached through the vacuum of space, and into Walsh's ship through means her instruments couldn't detect. It was a harmony of voices that seemed to number in the millions, all combined into a single, perfect note that resonated in her bones and her heart. But unlike the aliens who had heard this song and felt terror, Walsh felt only warmth and love. The creature was greeting her like a beloved family member returning home after a long journey. Hello there, she said aloud, knowing somehow that it could hear her. You're magnificent. The singing changed, becoming more complex and joyful. Through her ship's sensors, Walsh watched as similar scenes played out across human space. 43 Titans had now fully emerged, and each one was positioning itself at strategic points throughout human territory. They weren't forming attack formations. They were taking defensive positions like parents gathering to protect their children. Prometheus to all alien vessels in human space. Walsh broadcast on all frequencies. This is Commander Sarah Walsh of the Human Space Forces. You are now in the presence of humanity's guardians. We strongly suggest you withdraw to a safe distance. On the bridge of the Vorthan flagship Iron Will, Commander Vex received Walsh's message with a mixture of anger and fear. His massive battle fleet had been preparing to invade the human colony world of New Geneva when the Titans appeared. How many enemy vessels are we facing? He asked his tactical officer. Sir, we're not sure they are vessels in any sense we understand. There are 3 of the creatures between us and New Geneva. Our sensors can't get accurate readings on their capabilities. Vex studied the display screen showing the Titans floating in space. They moved without any visible propulsion system, yet they could clearly position themselves wherever they wanted. They showed no obvious weapons, but something about them suggested they didn't need conventional weapons. Try to scan their weak points, he ordered. Sir, we've been trying. The creatures seem to be made of some combination of organic tissue, advanced technology, and something our computers can't identify. They don't appear to have any weak points. Everything has weak points, Vex roared. Find them! But even as he gave the order, Vex felt a growing certainty that his fleet was outmatched. These weren't ships he could outmaneuver or weapons he could counter. These were living beings with capabilities beyond his understanding. On the water world of New Geneva, human colonists watched from their floating cities as the Titans took position above their planet. Instead of panic, there was a sense of wonder and safety. These creatures radiated protectiveness like a warm blanket. 8-year-old Emma Peterson stood on her family's balcony, looking up at the closest Titan with wide eyes. "Daddy, why is it singing to us?" Her father, Dr. Robert Peterson, knelt down beside her. "Because it loves us, sweetheart. It was made to love us and keep us safe, from the bad aliens, from anyone who wants to hurt us." Emma waved at the Titan floating above them. To her father's amazement, the creature's song changed slightly, becoming more personal, more focused. It was singing directly to his daughter. "It sees me." Emma laughed with delight. Dr. Peterson felt tears in his eyes. His wife, Dr. Lisa Peterson, worked on one of the secret projects that had helped create these beings. She had told him only that they were building guardians for humanity's future. Now he understood what she meant. Back on Earth, President Maria Santos stood in the Global Defense Command Center, watching reports flow in from across human space. The emergence was complete. Humanity's guardians were in position. "Status report," she called to her staff. "All Titans are operational and in position," her military advisor reported. "Alien fleets are withdrawing from 17 systems. No hostile actions detected. What about communications from alien governments? 17 requests for immediate talks. The Galactic Council wants to negotiate." Santos smiled grimly. "Tell them we'll consider negotiations after they withdraw all military forces from human space." "What if they refuse?" "Then they'll learn what our guardians can do." In the Nexari home system, Tech Prime Nora analyzed the data her probe ships had gathered about the Titans. Her forearms worked frantically at her control panels while her computer implants processed information at superhuman speed. The results made no sense. "These creatures violate fundamental laws of physics," she said to her council. "They move through space without reaction mass. They communicate across vast distances instantaneously. Their internal structure seems to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously." "Are they a threat to us?" asked Tech Prime Blake. "They are a threat to everything we thought we knew about reality," Nora replied. "But more immediately, yes. Each one of these beings possesses enough power to destroy our entire fleet." "How is that possible?" "I don't know. The humans have created something that shouldn't be able to exist. It's like they've learned to build with the fundamental forces of the universe itself." The Nexari had always prided themselves on having the most advanced technology in the galaxy. Now they faced beings that made their greatest achievements look like children's toys. On the ancient world of Kethmore, Elder Prime Zith called an emergency session of the High Council. His species had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had seen the rise and fall of dozens of civilizations. Nothing should have been able to surprise them. But the Titans were beyond their experience. "How could we have missed this?" Elder Prime Zith clicked to his advisors. "How could the humans have developed such capabilities without us knowing?" "They were careful," Elder Historian Vith replied. "Our intelligence shows they worked on this project for at least 20 years. Small facilities hidden across dozens of worlds, each site working on only part of the puzzle. And we saw them as primitive newcomers." "Yes, Elder Prime. We dismissed them as too young and simple to pose a real threat." Zith's golden shell darkened with shame. "We have made the greatest mistake in Kethmori history. We have forced a species with godlike capabilities into open warfare." As if summoned by his words, a new transmission began broadcasting on all galactic frequencies. It was the voice of Dr. Elena Rodriguez. "Speaking from Earth, people of the galaxy," she began. 6 days ago, your leaders demanded that humanity surrender 80% of our worlds, submit to your oversight, and pay tribute for the privilege of existing. When we refused, you prepared to take by force what we would not give freely." Her voice was calm and reasonable, but underneath it was a steel that made every alien who heard it feel cold. "You saw us as weak because we are young. You thought we would be easy to defeat because we are small. You believed that might makes right and that we would have no choice but to bow to your superior numbers." Around the galaxy, alien leaders watched their displays as the Titans began to move. Not attacking, but repositioning themselves with purpose and intelligence. "You were wrong," Rodriguez continued. "Humanity chose a different path long ago. Instead of building bigger weapons, we learned to grow better friends. Instead of creating more powerful ships, we developed deeper love." The Titans began to sing in harmony, their voices carrying across space itself. The beings you now see were not built to conquer or destroy. They were grown to love and protect. They see humanity as their beloved children, and they will do anything to keep us safe. Commander Vex felt his hands shake as he watched the Titan near his fleet. It hadn't made any aggressive moves, but something about its presence filled him with primal terror. "This is our final offer," Rodriguez said. "Withdraw all military forces from human space. Recognize humanity's right to exist as equals, not subjects. End your plans for conquest and domination." The Titan's song grew louder, more complex. It spoke of patience ending and protection beginning. "If you choose peace, our guardians will return to their rest. If you choose war, you will face beings that love us more than they love existence itself." The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in the peace talks collapse. Humanity's answer terrifies the galaxy. 6 months after the Titans emerged from their hidden places, the galaxy had become a very different place. The great empires that once ruled through fear and force now sent desperate messages to Earth, begging for protection they had once refused to offer others. President Maria Santos stood before the reformed Galactic Assembly in the Great Hall on Earth. Behind her, through massive windows, the shapes of 3 Titans could be seen floating in Earth's orbit like gentle giants watching over their children. Their soft singing created a harmony that could be heard even inside the building, a constant reminder of humanity's new reality. The assembly hall was packed with representatives from every known species, but the seating arrangement had changed dramatically. Where once humans had been given a small section in the back, now they occupied the central position. Where alien empires had once sat in positions of honor, they now waited nervously for humanity's attention. "Representatives of the galaxy," Santos began, her voice carrying easily through the vast space. "We gather today not as conquerors and conquered, but as parents and children seeking a better future together." In the front row, former Commander Vex of the Vortan Empire kept his eyes on the floor. His once mighty fleet had been reduced to 3 ships after most of his forces had simply refused to fight beings they couldn't understand or defeat. He now held the humble title of diplomatic messenger and spent his days carrying humanity's wishes back to what remained of Vorthon leadership. 6 months ago, Santos continued, "Your leaders demanded our surrender. You told us we were too young, too weak, too small to deserve a place among the great powers of the galaxy. You offered us slavery and called it generous." Tech Prime Nora of the Nexari Collective shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Her species' most advanced computers had spent months trying to understand how the Titans worked. The results had driven several of her colleagues to mental breakdown. The Titans operated on principles that violated everything the Nexari thought they knew about technology and physics. Today, the Nexari Collective offers humanity their most advanced technology as tribute, Santos said, looking directly at Nora. "The Hydros Federation has pledged their expertise in underwater engineering. The Lux Energy beings have shared their knowledge of quantum mechanics." Behind Santos, Dr. Lydia Foster stepped forward. Her role as humanity's chief xenorelations officer was one of the most important positions in the new galactic order. She had spent the past months learning to communicate with species that once saw humans as insignificant. "We accept these offerings not as tribute to conquerors," Foster explained, "but as gifts between family members. The beings you now call Titans see all life as precious, but they have chosen to love humanity above all else." In the gallery above the main floor, Elder Prime Zith of the Kethmori listened with the patience his species was known for. His people had ruled the galaxy for 10 millennia, but they had learned humility in the past 6 months. 3 of their oldest worlds were now under Titan protection after pirates had tried to raid them. The ancient Kethmori had discovered that being protected by beings they couldn't understand was both humbling and terrifying. "The Titans are not weapons of war," Foster continued. "They are guardians of love. They protect not only humanity but anyone humanity cares about. This is why former enemies now enjoy safety they never knew before." She gestured to a section where representatives from dozens of smaller species sat. These were races that had been oppressed by the great empires, species that had lived in fear of conquest and slavery. Now they lived under humanity's protection, and the Titans watched over them with the same care they showed human worlds. "The Verdani plant people no longer fear having their forests harvested for fuel," Foster said. "The crystal beings of Sigma Draconis can grow their reef cities without worrying about mining operations destroying their homes." The nomad traders of the spiral arm travel safely under Titan protection. From his seat in the former Great Powers section, what remained of the Galactic Council watched in silence. Their military forces had been reduced to police units. Their tribute demands had been replaced by requests for humanitarian aid. Their mighty fleets now served as escorts for human merchant ships. But protection comes with responsibility, Santos said, her voice taking on a harder edge. The Titans love humanity and they love what humanity loves, but they do not forgive threats to their family. A shiver ran through the assembled aliens as they remembered the fate of the Xerian Dominion. That aggressive species had refused to accept the new order and had launched a surprise attack on a human colony world. The Titans' response had been swift and absolute. The entire Xerian fleet had simply ceased to exist, not destroyed but transformed into harmless matter scattered across space. The Xerian homeworld still existed, and its people were unharmed, but they now lived under direct Titan supervision. Beings of impossible power watched their every move, and while they were not cruel, they were utterly implacable in their protection of anything humanity valued. We did not choose this path, Santos continued. Your leaders forced it upon us when they decided that might makes right. But now that we walk this path together, we will make the best of it. Dr. Nathan Cross stood up from his position in the Human Scientific Council. His work creating the Titans had made him one of the most important people in the galaxy, though he still sometimes couldn't believe what his research had accomplished. I want to explain what you're truly facing, he said to the assembly. The beings you call Titans are not machines. They are not trained animals. They are living, thinking creatures with emotional bonds to humanity that run deeper than anything you can imagine. He activated a holographic display that showed the quantum biological structure of a Titan's consciousness. They were created from patterns we found in the space between galaxies, quantum consciousness fragments that existed for nanoseconds in the void between colliding particles. We gave these patterns form and substance, but most importantly, we gave them love. The display showed the complex neural networks that ran through each Titan's body. At the center of each network was a structure that pulsed with warm light. This is their emotional core, Cross explained. It contains patterns based on human brain activity related to love, protection, and family bonding. To them, every human being is a beloved child who must be protected at all costs. Former Tech Prime Nora raised one of her 4 hands. Dr. Cross, how is it possible for beings of such power to feel emotions? Cross smiled sadly. Because emotion isn't weakness, it's the strongest force in the universe. Love can make parents lift cars to save their children. Love can make people sacrifice everything for someone else's happiness. We simply gave beings with godlike power the capacity to feel that love for all humanity. And the smaller entities? Asked Elder Prime Zith. The ones that now handle your routine operations? The Titans have spawned children of their own, Cross replied. Smaller beings, but still far more powerful than anything your technology can produce. They inherit their parents' love for humanity, and they serve us willingly because we are family. Through the great windows, the assembled delegates could see some of these smaller entities at work. They looked like living ships made of coral and starlight, each one the size of a building but moving with the grace of dolphins. They handled cargo operations, served as messengers between worlds, and performed 1,000 other tasks with joy and enthusiasm. President Santos stepped forward again. This is our new reality, she said. Humanity did not seek to rule the galaxy, but we will protect it. We did not want to be your guardians, but we will serve in that role if necessary. She looked out over the assembly, seeing fear and wonder and desperate hope in dozens of different alien faces. The old ways are gone forever. The time of conquest and tribute and enslaving the weak is over. In its place, we offer something different. A galaxy where the strong protect the weak because it is right, not because they have to. What do you require of us? Asked Ambassador Kelt of the Spiral Coalition. Santos smiled, and for the first time since the Titans emerged, it was a warm expression. Live in peace. Treat each other with kindness. Help those who need help. Raise your children to be better than you were. These are not complicated requests, and if we refuse? Santos gestured toward the windows where the Titans continued their eternal vigil. Then you will explain your reasoning to beings who love humanity's children more than they love the continued existence of the universe itself. The assembly fell silent as that truth settled over them. They were no longer the rulers of their own destiny. They lived now in a galaxy where godlike beings made decisions based on love rather than logic, where the fate of entire civilizations depended on whether humanity approved of their actions. But strange as it seemed, most of them felt safer than they had in centuries. Outside the Great Hall in parks and playgrounds across Earth, human children played under the watchful eyes of their impossible guardians. The Titans sang their ancient songs of love and protection, harmonies that reached across the galaxy to comfort any who chose to listen. And in the dark spaces between the stars, new patterns stirred. The Titans were learning, growing, evolving. They were